Part 171. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1706. After verifying Gretel's new meditation method, the council was very happy to invest in its efforts to make it popular within the control of the glorious Holy See. This is of course impossible. Such a big and thick book. It has to be sent to the Brolin Kingdom, the Rhine Kingdom, and also to the Cape Kingdom and the Netherlands. What a big trouble. It's hard to hide. Therefore, the Magic Council basically did not reach out. When various spies discovered this journal and tried their best to buy it, they pretended not to see anything. Buy it, Bida? Ken. Ask the magician of the council to help buy it? Ken. Ask an adventurer from somewhere to help me buy it? Yes, everything is okay. As long as you give me money, anything is fine. Of course, it would be quite difficult for the spies to bring back such a large and thick book. The greatest help the Parliament can give is to pretend that you haven't seen it even if you find it. Even with such a pitiful help, the first issue of Life spread quickly. The king of the Cape Kingdom, the former Duke of Ardennes, and his nobles all took a look at one or two books. The Grand Duchess of Alva, the Count of Anjou, the Duke of Upper Lorraine, the Duke of Lower Lorraine, these powerful nobles, when they were still subordinates of the Kingdom of Brolin, they dared to secretly raise magicians in the castle. Now that the Cape Kingdom is independent and has violated the Holy See's secret laws, let's take a look at the latest results of the Magic Council. What's the big deal? Haha, what an interesting result. Grand Duchess Alva used her pointed nails painted with bright red cinnamon to flip through the first issue of Life page by page, and pinched lightly on the pages about meditation methods. A few times. Perez, what do you think of this book? Is it possible to popularize it among the boys under my command? And my dear little Henry, can he practice it? In the shadow behind him, the armor made a clanging sound. A knight in black armor took half a step, his eyes quickly glanced at the books in front of the Grand Duchess, and light flashed through the gap in his face armor. Dear sir, this book's description of the human body is very enlightening for warriors. I suggest that all knights should study hard. At least they will know how their own bones grow and how to tie them when they need to stop bleeding. Cunning Grand Duchess Alva laughed softly. You know I'm not asking you this. What about meditation? Can the way of meditation be changed? Your Excellency, the way priests meditate is to recite scriptures, worship the Lord of Glory, and keep their body and mind as close to our Lord as possible. The black-armored knight's tone was steady and firm, with a hint of helplessness, as if he was familiar with his master's sudden willfulness. Rushly forcing changes may shake faith, cause a high-ranking priest to collapse, and may even lead to resistance and resistance. If you must try, you can only start from the periphery, bit by bit, and let them find and experiment on their own, instead of forcing you to promote it. Well. The Grand Duchess took back her fingertips that were scratching the pages of the book and gently moved her fingers. An invisible force stirred, and the book Life turned one page and then another. What about my little Henry? Your Excellency, the young master is young and is still in the process of polishing the foundation. It is not appropriate to ask him to meditate rashly, no matter what type of meditation it is. Please think twice. Hey, okay. The Grand Duchess of Alva responded dully. She walked slowly to the window and flicked her hands lightly. In the flowerbeet outside the window, several roses that were in full bloom were broken one by one. With another flick, those bright red, delicate yellow, pink and white roses flew up one after another and fell into the water bottle on the table. The hard thorns on the flower branches had already been cleaned up silently during this process. Mom's little Henry, Mom really hopes that when you grow up, you will receive a bouquet of clean flowers without having to prick your hand with thorns. By the way, find a few reliable ones among the newly admitted children in the monastery and start experimenting with this meditation method. I want to see if this thing is effective and whether it will help improve mental strength. Yes. In the northeast of the Cape Kingdom, in the Saxony territory facing the Black Forest, Frostflower Veronica was flipping through a thick book, her face becoming more and more serious. This book, which was passed from the Kingdom of Kent to the Netherlands and then to her hands, has indeed benefited her a lot. According to the human body structure described above, the process of guiding power to circulate her breath throughout her body has become much smoother, allowing her power to penetrate into more subtle corners. However, she tossed and turned over whether to introduce the meditation method, and still couldn't make up her mind. Father, what do you think? After leading the army alone for more than 20 years, Frostflower had to turn to her father's wisdom for help. Known as the Golden Lion, the Duke of Saxony, who sits in the eastern border of the Rhine Kingdom and resists the vampire Black Forest, has traditionally held the title of Grand Marshal of the Rhine Kingdom. And the current Duke of Saxony has really lived up to this honor. In any war where he leads troops, he will win every battle and conquer every attack. Haha, I think there's no rush. The Duke of Saxony looked at his daughter with a smile. In the past few years, his daughter had married a young nobleman in Saxony who had always admired her, and gave birth to 2 children safely. His biggest worry had disappeared. What is needed now is to guard her daughter and let her mature a little more until she can take over the burden of the entire Saxon territory. Of course, by the way, you can also take care of your grandchildren at home. Your father has at least 50 or 60 years to live. Veronica, don't be anxious about anything. Let's let the news spread on its own. Look at those priests, especially those who preach justification by faith priests, what do they think? Don't push it deliberately, don't rush to reveal the traces of confronting the glory Holy See. Now, we are at a distance from Nevis. They are willing to send healers to protect you in giving birth safely. If they win, we are not afraid of capsizing. Even if they can't push us away for a while, or lose, as long as we don't give others a handle, as long as our strength doesn't decline, the glory Holy See will not be the first to deal with us. No rush, no hurry, we have enough time to observe slowly. Time is on our side. The Golden Lion Duke of Saxony, who is still in his prime, has plenty of room to patiently observe, but the already elderly White Wolf Count Ascan does not have that much room to maneuver. At this moment, 2 old men, William Ascan, who was over 100 years old, and his younger brother, Big Bear Albry Ascan, sat opposite each other. Between the two of them, there was a big, thick book, with the title Life shining in golden light. William, do you think this Nordmark mage is really little Leo's son? Albry Ascan was a tall, muscular man. His beard and hair were spread wildly, and at first glance, he really looked like an upright brown bear, which was the origin of his nickname Big Bear. However, when he reached out and touched the cover of Life, his rough, calloused fingertips did not scratch the slightest wrinkle on the book. The fingertips moved gently along the lines of Life, as if caressing the face of a long-lost person across endless time and space. Leo, little Leo's mother was already very vague in his memory. I only remember a slender and delicate girl, like a clear blue cornflower, blooming quietly on the grass in the countryside. He once loved this girl and had high hopes for Leo. Unfortunately, the child seems to have inherited his mother's sentimentality, prefers poetry to swordsmanship, and is about to become an adult, not even a knight. Then, what happened next? Later, he wanted to find a marriage for this child. Even if it was his illegitimate child, it would not be difficult to find a little lord's daughter. He has arranged for a female knight who is strong and determined. When she charges with a long sword, the entire team can follow her regardless of life or death. Such a child can always support Leo's family business and his manor, right? Who would have thought that little Leo ran away? He ran away for so many years and never came back, and there was no news from him. At that time, he was leading troops away. Only when he came back half a year later did he find out that little Leo had fallen in love with an orphan girl in the nearby woods and eloped with the orphan girl. Then, a few years ago, envoys from the Magic Council found him and the Ascan family with letters and evidence from the legendary mage. It turned out that his little Leo had died a long time ago, dead decades ago. The evidence we see now is this: compared with him, Earl White Wolf is much calmer and more stable. Of course, the evidence given to us by the Magic Council only covers how little Leo came to the Kingdom of Kent, how he settled in Heartland City, and how he died in the battle. Among them, there is a lot of evidence that is too old, the person involved has passed away, or the memory is very blurry. According to the memories of the knights in Heartland City, the appearance depicted is only 60–70% similar to young Leo. Besides, we don't have the ability to go to Elf Island after all. Elf, haha, elf. If he had known that the girl that little Leo fell in love with was an elf traveling abroad, would he have allowed the union of this little son and daughter? Or, will you urge them to run as fast as possible, and run as far as possible? After all, in the territory of the Holy See, if the identity of the elf is revealed, even the White Wolf family will not be able to protect the girl who marries into his family. If Master Nordmark comes back here, we still have a way to verify the family bloodline through divine magic. White Wolf Ascan said quietly. But now we are thousands of miles away. According to the council, the child is on Dragon Island. Wait a little longer. I hope I can see him before I close my eyes. Anyway, a 17th level archmage, I really hope that he really has the blood of our family. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1707. The frosty wind howled. Swy was speechless. In the stone castle, which was so thick and so dark that only a ray of skylight could shine through, and even the faces of people could not be seen, the two old men sat in silence facing each other. A man with white hair like snow and old skin tightly wrapped around 10-finger bones. At a glance, he looks like cast iron. A man with splayed eyebrows, just sitting there, seemed to be in a trance like a giant bear looking up to the sky and roaring. These two old men are the white jade pillars and purple golden beams of the Ascan family. Except for the family legend who has been in seclusion for a long time and has rarely left the mountain, the Ascan family has the strongest apparent combat power. It can be said that it is not difficult to say that the wind and snow are shaking, and that the Northland is overturned with one backhand. However, at this time, White Wolf William Ascan and Big Bear Albry Ascan, the two old men, had lingering sorrow in their eyebrows. After a long time, Big Bear Albry sighed softly. "Brother, tell me, Gretel, Mage Nordmark, will he come back?" "Have no idea." The old Earl White Wolf, who has been wearing armor and charging into battle since he was 15 years old. At the age of 20, he led troops to kill the Skullcutter born through 800 miles of wilderness, earning the name White Wolf. At the age of 35, he advanced to the level of heaven. The old knight slowly shook his head. The news from Nevis is that the child has not known his own life experience since he was a child. Little Leo has been anonymous since arriving in the Kingdom of Kent. He has never told his son which family he comes from. The two old men were silent again. Nordmark, Nord, means north, and mark means borderline or border wall. Taken together, they are the northern frontier. The White Wolf Ascan family built a fortress on the bank of the Eber River. From the moment they established the family, they became the northern vassals of the Rhine Kingdom. He always remembers his family, although he can't come back, he always has his family in his heart. Big Bear Albry said slowly. When little Leo eloped from home, he was not yet a knight. Perhaps he was working hard to protect his wife and give his wife and children a better life, right? But little Leo died too early. Little Gretel grew up alone in the Kingdom of Kent, and didn't even know what kind of family he came from. Of course, for little Greet at that time, not knowing might be better and safer than knowing. His relationship with the family was informed to him after the council found out. After being informed, he didn't express anything. Maybe, even if he came to the Ascan family, it was for the mission of the council, not out of feelings for the family. Bar. White Wolf William Ascan said leisurely. Whatever you sow, you will reap. Since the family has no favors to the Nordmark mage, there is no need to expect the child to have any feelings for the family. The White Wolf family will never be weaker than anyone else in their lives. It is good to have external assistance, but without it? If not, there will be no more. The Ascan family has gone through ups and downs over the years. Could it be that they relied on external forces to make it through? So, Big Bear Albry wanted to say something, but finally swallowed it back and just shook his head gently. He was silent for a while and pointed to a box next to the journal Life. So, do you plan to use this? Compared with the journals next to it, this box is inconspicuous at all. It was gray, black, rough, and irregular in shape. In fact, it was just a tree trunk, and even the bark had not been shaved off. The tree trunk was casually sawn in half, and a small piece was hollowed out in the middle to hide the things to be hidden. Then, the tree trunk is regenerated and grows back together, as if it had never been opened. And the abundant life breath was locked in the trunk of the tree, without leaking out at all. Neva said that this is an ancient tree fruit from the Elf Island, which can replenish a lot of life force. It cannot make people rejuvenate or regain their youth, but it can still make people live longer by 10 or 20 years. For the Ascan family, extending their lifespan by 10 or 20 years may allow the family to survive the storm safely. White Wolf William stared at this box, or rather, this tree trunk. The fingers are raised slightly, then lowered, raised a little more, and then lowered. Finally, he picked up the box, turned around, put it into the secret box next to it, and put it away tightly. Not yet, he sighed softly. Take another look. Take another look. If the Nordmark mage has returned to the family, if it is confirmed that he is indeed a bloodline of the family, if he holds this gift with his own hands. Bai Lang felt that he could be trusted and could use it with confidence. However, this gift was sent by the Magic Council. Let's see. After all, his lifespan has not yet reached the point of complete exhaustion and seeing death coming. I wish I could see that kid, I wish I could see. The two old men looked at each other like this. Now that the Magic Council has fallen into this trap, maybe it will really let Master Nordmark come back when the time comes. Who knows? Maybe. In short, wait slowly and leave the variables to time. They are looking forward to changes happening, looking forward to the family's children coming back so that the family can take another step forward steadily. And in more places, some people hesitated and hesitantly opened the title page of Life. Jean Madeleine stood for a long time with his head bowed in front of Bishop Miria's grave. He knelt down for the last time, arranged the bouquet in front of the grave, and carefully wiped the dust off each flower leaf. Then, he stood up and took a few steps back, sitting under an oak tree where he could see the grave as soon as he raised his eyes, but would not disturb the grave. His brows were furrowed, and his rough hands rubbed the corners of his clothes back and forth, almost tearing them into pieces. He is not a person with outstanding qualifications. If he had outstanding qualifications, he would not have been a low-level priest for more than 10 years. After regaining his magical skills, he could not make any further progress for so many years. Now, there is an opportunity in front of him, seize it, maybe he can advance, maybe, he will fall into the abyss. This opportunity comes from the Magic Council. From the evil wizards. However, when Bishop Miria was wronged and burned to death by the Holy Fire, the Holy See did not help him, and the Holy See has not yet upheld justice for him. And the evil magicians helped the Dutch a lot. None of this is the key. The key is, will meditating in this way increase his mental power? Or will it make him lose the favor of the holy light? Jean-Madeleine didn't understand. All his understanding of doctrine came from Bishop Miria. That bishop taught him kindness, taught him to love others, and taught him to shepherd the Lamb of God. However, none of God's teachings mention that one cannot strengthen oneself. My Lord Bishop, what would you do if it were you? What advice would you give me if you were still alive? The mountain wind is cold and cold. The oak tree is speechless. The person lying in the grave will never open his eyes again or give him a kind smile. I'll give it a try. Just try it. Anyway, my magic does not come from the Holy See. Anyway, the Holy See has excommunicated me. Finally, Jean-Madeleine gritted his teeth and made up his mind. If the attempt succeeds, I will have stronger power to relieve the suffering of God's people, right? He closed his eyes. Feel at ease, concentrate, and then, one by one, the bones slowly light up in the bottom of my heart, forming a rough human shape. Smooth bones. Rough bones. Burnt bones, skeletons that are burned to a crisp and turn into ashes when touched by your hand. Among them, there is a complete, hard, and solid bone. It is thin and narrow, with slightly concave and convex sides, and a small sharp corner at the end. When held in the hand, it almost looks like a sharp dagger. Jean-Madeleine didn't know which bone it was at first. That piece of holy bone was put into the box and buried in the tomb. Only the heavy touch and the faint silver light remained imprinted in his heart. It wasn't until he read this book Life that he suddenly realized. This is the sternum. It is the middlemost bone in the middle of the human body, in front of the chest, connecting the ribs on both sides. It covers the heart, is gathered by the heart and soul, and is the most pious and holy faith that will not be extinguished until death. At this moment, this sacred bone glowing with silver light lit up in his meditation world. With the holy bone as the center, the ribs extend to both sides, and then another ring of ribs surrounds the back and is connected to the spine. The vertebrae grow upward to support the head and extend downward to connect to the pelvis. It extends in all directions, arms, legs, palms and fingers, soles and toes, little by little, it lights up in my heart. That's me? That's me. During meditation, the moment the entire set of bones lights up, holy light falls like rain and automatically attaches to the bones. Jean-Madeleine opened his eyes and felt the bones in his body crack, and heat surged out of his heart and flowed into his limbs. He clenched his fists, lunged, lowered his body, rotated his torso, and punched hard. Boom. This method is quite useful, quite useful. Jean-Madeleine withdrew his fist and looked down at his right fist, feeling disappointed for a long time. Bishop Miria, if you had known this method earlier, maybe you would have been more than just a country bishop, more than just a low-ranking cleric. Maybe, that day, you will get more respect in the military tent, at least, you won't be burned alive. In the Cape Tien Kingdom, in the Netherlands, in the Rhine Kingdom. Among those clergy who believe in the glorious Lord of justification by faith, more than one got a copy of Life, and more than one started to try it. There are many successful people like Jean-Madeleine, and there are also many failures. John Calvin, an 18th-level ascetic who founded his own sect and expounded on justification by faith, spurted out a mouthful of golden blood, his faith collapsed, and his glow was scattered. All glory belongs to the Lord. All glory belongs to the Lord. Before his death, he left these last words. We can only be infinitely close to the Lord and wait for the Lord's gifts, but we cannot rob the Lord of his glory with our own bodies. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1708. 10,000 rewards plus update 16. The glorious Holy See seems to have tricked no one. Yes, the Holy See of Glory issued a notice, reiterating that the majesty of the Lord of Glory is incomprehensible, and reiterated that the way to worship the Lord of Glory is to revere the Lord wholeheartedly, rely on the Lord, and let go of everything you have to the Lord. This is public. Privately, the Holy See of Glory issued an order to reiterate the practice laws in various churches and monasteries, and only allowed to practice by worshipping the Lord of Glory and reciting classics. As for the Protestant side, it seems that some high-ranking priests died after trying this meditation method. Pity. In the dark, there is a dull, almost inaudible sound that echoes faintly. I don't know if it's a pity that the high-ranking members of the Protestant Church died, or it's a pity that the glorious Holy See didn't trick anyone after all. But it doesn't matter. According to the current news, low-level priests, who have not yet formed a fixed concept, will make rapid progress by practicing this meditation method. On the contrary, high-level priests will cause conflicts between holy power and self-awareness. Then just wait. Yeah, be patient and wait slowly. Sow a seed and wait for it to germinate, bloom, and bear fruit. Waiting for this new batch of low-level priests to slowly reach the high level. Among the low-level priests, those who are born in noble families and are already well educated may be able to obtain this meditation method. Those who love themselves more than they love God, are loyal to their family more than they are loyal to God, because they are the second or third son of the family, those priests who join the church in order to maintain their status and support their family. They will be more receptive to new meditation methods. It will be easier to construct a new self during meditation, and then absorb the power of brilliance to help yourself advance. At least at low and intermediate levels, this meditation method has obvious advantages in improving mental power compared to traditional meditation methods. When they reach the top, will their different ideas and beliefs tear apart the teachings of the glorious Holy See? Is the body the main thing, or is God the main thing? The legendary mages are looking forward to it. Looking forward to the changes in the glory Holy See, looking forward to the changes in the kingdom of Rhine, looking forward to the pieces they will fall in the Saxony territory and the Ascan family of the Northland feudal lords. Maybe it's just a casual chess move, and it may take 5, 10, or 20 years to bury it. Maybe when the world is turned upside down, these chess pieces will respond to the changes. Besides, even if this meditation method cannot tear apart the glorious Holy See, it doesn't matter, our magician's mental power can increase additionally, while the spiritual power of the glorious Holy See's casters remains unchanged. Doesn't that mean we win? Really, looking forward to it? Gretel was not looking forward to it at all. The changes here in Nevis and the Kingdom of Kent are already beyond his reach, and he can't reach them even if he stretches out his hand. He only wrote letters one by one, asked others to ask for help, gave advice to the therapists in his hospital one by one, and exchanged benefits with others one by one. Whether it is meditation or something else, if you want to spread it and achieve results, you will not be able to see the results in a month or two, or even a year or two. And to wait for them to see the results, they have to wait until the major temples, especially the temple of the god of war, confirm that this thing is useful, and wait until each noble family confirms that this thing is useful, and that there are advanced ways to improve its effect. At that time, collaborators will continue to come to him. Before that, efforts were made to expand hospital construction and set up hospitals in various places, which was actually a half-effort. All Gretel can do now is to seize the moment and hold on to the moment. At the same time, he wrote to Oak Grove Hospital to increase funding for them to recruit more therapists and train more therapists that meet modern medical standards. On the other hand, research, study hard, and promote various studies on Dragon Island. Research to improve the breeding ability of dragons, research to analyze the secrets of the extraordinary, and research to ascend the legendary road for yourself. As a subject leader, Greed has been more responsible for selecting topics, assigning tasks, organizing research, and obtaining resources. He has not conducted many experiments himself. However, there are still some experiments that Gretel needs to do personally. For example, in a high-energy environment, under the impact of super-energy particles, under various imaginable environments, observe cell division, observe the division and duplication, transition, and dimming of extraordinary chromosome points. Failed. Failed. Failed again. What conditions are required for these extraordinary points to be able to maintain their rank and not fall down? What needs to be maintained, are atoms one by one, or spell configurations one by one? Is it better to hit it with high-speed electron flow, or with a strong magnetic field? Why are the eggs of silver and white dragons buried in ice and snow, the eggs of gold, brass, and red dragons burned in open fire, and the eggs of black, copper, and green dragons placed in strong acid? I can understand a little bit about open flames. After all, flames can provide energy to metals, allowing electrons in metal atoms to transition, stimulating flame reactions. But if you put it in ice and snow, it will slow down the movement of molecules. Then, put it in strong acid. Is this a chemical reaction? Relying on chemical reactions to power dragon eggs? This doesn't provide much energy. Also, if you put eggs in a high-temperature flame, aren't you afraid of protein denaturation? If the eggs of golden dragons, brass dragons, and red dragons are not afraid of protein denaturation, then why are the eggs of other dragons not good? Gretel scratched his head, scratched his head, scratched his head hard, and scratched his hair. If he hadn't carried his cleaning skills with him every day, I'm afraid he would have scratched his hair and made it fall out in handfuls. But now we can only try and study one direction at a time. Find out all the methods of preserving high-energy magic materials, put them together with these methods of preserving dragon eggs, and try to compare them. High-energy minerals, high-energy active substances, seeds, sap, animal bones, animal blood, drugs. Every high-energy magic material will slowly pass away in a low-magic environment and needs to be preserved with extreme care. They need to be placed in a thick box that can isolate magic radiation. Or put it into a box engraved with demon sealing runes. Or, place them close to the energy pool, and use energy of the same nature to soak these high-energy magic materials as much as possible to delay the loss of their power. Magical power, like water, like electricity, flows naturally from places of high energy to places of low energy. When the dragon egg is in the female dragon's body, the female dragon will gather extremely huge energy to protect the dragon egg and allow the dragon egg to develop normally. It is somewhat similar to the principle of preserving magic materials. But why use fire, ice, and strong acid to bury dragon eggs? Greed kept dismantling these demon sealing runes, kept comparing them, and kept experimenting. Finally one day, good news came from the laboratory. It's done. It's done. The spell configuration analyzed in the chromosome of the dragon egg and engraved on the magic sealing box to preserve the dragon egg can effectively reduce the time for the extraordinary point of the chromosome to fall. Add these spell configurations into the limited wishing spell to provide directional enhancement to extraordinary monsters. It can also effectively improve the performance of extraordinary monsters in this direction. Gretel clenched his fist hard. Quick! Write a report and apply to the dragon clan to take a batch of white dragon eggs for targeted research, yes, a batch of white dragon eggs that have been hatched for more than 3/4 of the time and the young dragons have developed consciousness. Break the eggshells and take out the baby dragons. One batch of baby dragons are buried in the ice and snow normally, and the baby dragons that break their shells in advance are given normal hatching conditions. The other batch of baby dragons are given extraordinary chromosomes using magic. Targeted enhancement. Gretel gave an order, the tower spirit buzzed, and he quickly went to write a report. The experimental application to fly to Sky Dragon City fell into the hands of the legendary white dragon Vanessa. The legendary second-level white dragon only took one look at it and chose agree without hesitation. The dragon eggs are all given to them, and they can do whatever they want with them. Anyway, they are just the eggs of some young white dragons. They hatched and ran all over the mountains and fields. One batch hatched 100 young dragons. I don't know if they can survive to adulthood. Are there 10 of them? Greet got permission and immediately arranged for people to work. The full incubation period of a white dragon egg is 420 days, and the last 1/4 period is 105 days. During these 105 days, they had enough opportunities to repeatedly sample the hatchlings and monitor the chromosomes. The experimental group and the control group are compared with each other. The more data there are, the greater the possibility of drawing correct conclusions. This experiment was not done by Gretel himself. Anivia, along with 2 young nature priests, rolled up her sleeves and gathered the ice and snow herself, built an environment similar to a dragon's nest, and took care of the young dragons herself. Leon Carlos held the test tube and walked from hatching nest to hatching nest, opening the hatchlings' mouths one by one and scraping epithelial cell samples. All Gretel needs to do is to decide on the experimental method, watch people debug the magic circle, decide on the spell model for directional enhancement, check the chromosome report given by Tolling, and decide whether the experimental method needs to be adjusted. Experiments show that during the incubation period of a young dragon, the number of extraordinary points in its chromosomes is constantly decreasing. In other words, as cells continue to divide and grow, energy is constantly diluted and extraordinary energy is constantly reduced. What we need to do is to slow down the falling process as much as possible. Greet kept writing quickly. After finishing writing in one breath, he spread his arms and stretched greatly. In our experiments in the last quarter of the hatching period, we have verified that if targeted enhancements can be made during the incubation period, the mental and physical strength of the hatchlings will be significantly enhanced after hatching. Now, what we need to verify is that if the young dragon can be targeted during the fertilized egg stage, will it increase the probability of the fertilized egg dividing? Where can I go for artificial insemination? Or, where to trap a female dragon who is about to become pregnant? Thanks to @bookfriend 2020071616554612 for the 1000 starting coin reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1709. Chapter 1704 Idion, you can't find the female dragon and you're going to take advantage of me. All the female dragons that can get pregnant are equally capable of getting pregnant, and the female dragons that can't get pregnant have their own reasons why they can't get pregnant. Greet held his chin in one hand and held a pen in the other, tapping and drawing on the table. Excluding the issue of the couple's fertility wishes and the issue of the male dragon, there are many reasons that may cause difficulties in pregnancy. Blocked fallopian tubes, endocrine disorders, thin endometrium, uterine fibroids, and endometriosis. Cross these out, the physiological structure of dragons is different from humans. Gretel can't solve any of the above problems. He didn't know the anatomy of the dragon clan, he didn't know how to unblock the fallopian tubes. Wait, during the pregnancy process of a female dragon, does she first gestate one or several dragon eggs, and then introduce the male dragon semen to form a fertilized egg, or does she release the egg first, and then fertilize it to form a fertilized egg? Greet scratched his head hard, but he was too embarrassed to ask Cyrilla. Besides, Cyrilla is in deep sleep now, so there is no way to pick her up and ask her. Looking around, there are special dragons near the Mage Tower to help deliver messages to Sky Dragon City. Greet asked seriously. The other person scratched his head and his facial features wrinkled together. I don't know. Pregnancy and laying eggs are all the female dragon's business, we don't know. Gretel retreated silently. This time it was a male dragon who was stationed at the Mage Tower to deliver the message. It was also a male dragon last time, and the last time, and the last time after that. In short, it was always a male dragon who took turns here. Greet was helpless, sighed, and began to write. To the Emerald Dragon Tana, to Elder Batista, to all the legendary dragons and mature dragons he knows and can speak to. So far, he has relied on magic to help adult dragons become pregnant, and the success rate has been 100%. To help mature dragons become pregnant, the success rate is over 50% through some screening methods. The only ones that need further attempts are older mature dragons, prime female dragons, legendary dragons, and younger female dragons. Are there any volunteers? Does anyone need help? Let me say it first, it may not really succeed. Gretel's letter circulated around Sky Dragon City, and then around again. The Dragon Clan is talking a lot, but no one has taken the initiative to stand up yet. The legendary dragon and the mature dragon were both fighting on the battlefield, and for a while, they couldn't spare any time to give birth to children. Even if there is a desire to have children, the Dragon Clan still needs to arrange the schedule to make room for the female dragon who has successfully become pregnant. Alas, there are no volunteers, the experiment is temporarily stuck. Greet refreshed her mailbox for the umpteenth time and sighed for the umpteenth time. Without volunteers, without female dragons willing to donate eggs, there would be no possibility of advancing the experiment further. Speaking of which, is it possible that this technology can help others? Greet, what's that look in your eyes? Idion, who was sitting diagonally across from him, shivered directly. With the physique of a legendary warrior, he felt like the hair on the back of his head was standing on end, the wind was blowing, and he wanted to run away. What did Greet look at him just now? It's both deep and distant, as if you want to see through his internal organs, and as if you want to use a knife to cut him into pieces and soak them piece by piece in the preservation solution. It's okay, I just wanted to ask, when will you and Sister Uge plan to have a child? Idion is a legendary warrior. Ash Moonsong is a high-level warrior and mid-level natural spellcaster. The two of them have been together, for a long time. If the couple lives a normal life and has not been pregnant for such a long time, it basically meets the standard of infertility. Speaking of which, do these two also need some manual intervention? Let's let nature take its course. Well, let nature take its course. Idion was sweating slightly from behind, waved his hand vigorously, and quickly lowered his head to eat. He cleaned all the food in the bowl in one go. He even put down the bowl and ran away without adding more broth according to his usual habit. Don't let Gretel use any magic to help. What a shame. Anyway, the elf has a long life. He is still in his prime now, and Ash Moonsong is still young and energetic. They can definitely try it slowly. Go quickly, if you don't go, it will be bad if Greet catches you. Well. Gretel sighed silently. Don't be like this, the most I can do is ask, and I won't force you to receive medical services. However, Idion and Ashuedge can't help here, and the teacher probably doesn't need help. Do we still have to make plans for the Dragon Clan? Gretel returned to his office with a slumped head, continued to write letters, and continued to do experiments after finishing the letter. After 7 or 8 consecutive days of experimentation, strange news came from Sky Dragon City. There is currently no female dragon willing to cooperate with your experiment. However, we have successfully persuaded 2 ladies who are willing to provide unfertilized dragon eggs for you to conduct sperm egg binding experiments. Gretel, what? He quickly wrote letters to Elder Batista and his mother-in-law, and applied to study the Dragon Clan's collection of books. There are not many books in the collection, they are mainly about the knowledge imparted by the Dragon Clan, which relies largely on passing down memories. However, my mother-in-law, Ms. Cynthia, replied readily. Yes, a female dragon can lay unfertilized eggs if she wishes. Although this situation is very, very rare, because unfertilized eggs also need to consume the female dragon's power, and no male dragon can consume this kind of power. Share. Under certain special circumstances, unfertilized eggs can also be fertilized outside the body, although I don't want to admit this. In ancient times, there were powerful existences of female dragons and non-dragons, who gave birth to offspring in this way. The female dragon is willing to give birth to offspring for the other party, but is not willing to conceive the child in her own body, so she adopts this compromise method. Not only did she reply to the letter, but 3 days later, Ms. Cynthia came over in person and brought 2 small boxes. A box is made of mithril. The box is shrouded in cold mist, and a large number of water droplets condense on the surface and flow down in streams. The other box was dark black, with the air on its surface slightly distorted. Gretel didn't even need to reach out to feel the hot power emanating from the inside of the box. Good guy, if you reach out and touch it, one hand will be frozen on the box, and the other hand will be immediately cooked. He quickly called the invisible servant, pushed a special transport truck over, and took over the 2 boxes. Ms. Cynthia smiled slightly. According to your theory, only fresh eggs are needed, and the gestation time in the body will be relatively short. Come on, these 2 boxes each contain 5 eggs. Is it enough for you to do experiments for the time being? It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1710. A box of 5 eggs. 2 boxes of 10. Comes from 2 different female dragons, or even, according to Gretel's request, should come from at least 2 mature female dragons. Gretel stared at the 2 boxes with a serious expression, silent for a moment. 10 eggs, 10 possible children, 10 children who worked hard to conceive, take them out of the body, and entrust them to him. Of course, a female dragon can lay 1 clutch a year if she wishes, and a clutch can lay up to 5 eggs. However, each egg requires a lot of energy to be condensed. In order to advance, a female dragon is often only willing to lay 2 clutches of eggs in her entire life, not even 1 more. Now these are just eggs, sleeping in the ovaries, being quickly activated and ripened by the female dragon to the point where they can form life. The energy consumed will not be as much as laying dragon eggs, but it will definitely not be too little. In particular, the female dragon must be wrapped in energy and carefully expelled from the body to keep it active so that it can be sent to him for experiments. Every movement is quite difficult. How should he repay this trust? What should we do? Carefully plan and operate carefully, so that these unfertilized eggs can be successfully fertilized and hatched, and come into this world alive. Can I ask where these eggs come from? He asked cautiously. Cynthia shook her head gently. It's best not to ask. All I can tell you now is that the silver box comes from the silver dragon, and this black box comes from the golden dragon. When you want to combine sperm and eggs, ask me again and I will help you select a sperm that can be used. Donate anonymously. Fair enough. When the doctor did the experiment, he didn't know who the eggs came from, so he felt that the psychological pressure was much less. Gretel nodded solemnly and directed the invisible servant to push the carrier back to his research room. Under Cynthia's guidance, the mithril box and the black steel box were put into different magic circles. One gathers the power of ice and snow to cool down as much as possible so that the cold air in the mithril box does not leak out. A concentrated fire power kept the black steel box and the golden dragon eggs in the black steel box at extremely high temperatures, bathing them in a high concentration of fire elements. Dragons are different from humans. Human eggs need a suitable temperature, a suitable pH, and a suitable endocrine environment to remain active. As for the dragons, they need more powerful energy, energy. Gretel held his breath, quickly adjusted the magic circle, and put the 2 boxes in respectively. Then, he rushed to the research room next door to adjust another magic circle so that when the sperm and egg combine, They can observe how the chromosomes separate, how they replicate, and how they divide into new cells. If the fertilized egg can really divide successfully. At the same time, Greet asked Tailing to summon Anavia and the team led by Anavia. This group of people quickly set up the alchemy chamber to quickly produce fertilized eggs. This result has been tried on many creatures such as magic frogs, magic lizards, and pseudo-dragons, and has also successfully spawned a broken dragon egg from a crystal dragon. However, Greet is not yet sure whether fertilized eggs can directly give birth to dragon hatchlings. Some of these eggs, these possible fertilized eggs, will definitely be wasted. After all preparations were completed, Greet took out a book and spread it out in front of his mother-in-law. The first few pages of the booklet are divided into categories and neatly written with the names of the dragon clans one by one. They were all male dragons who had come to him to donate sperm, or in other words, he had forced them to donate sperm to measure sperm activity and study the relationship between age and sperm activity. Those donated at that time, except for a small amount, about a few milliliters, were used for microscopy and testing. Most of them were well preserved for. Gretel turned one page and then another. Turn it upside down and push it in front of Cynthia. Look, these are all silver dragons, can you give me a circle? Cynthia smiled slightly. Little Greet is really attentive and a bit cunning. If he said, which one of you can't be used, you could guess who donated the eggs by following the direction she gave. However, if she circles a range, she can intentionally circle a few less. The more names that are skipped, the less likely it is to guess. He didn't want to know, and was also deliberately avoiding suspicion. Either way, that's fine. Cynthia stared at the list in the record book, silently calculating in her mind the relationship between the compatriot who donated the eggs and the male dragons in the book. Well, first cross out her father, cross out her grandfather, then cross out her biological brothers, cross out her father's biological brothers, and then cross out her husband's relatives. After going through this process and deleting a few irrelevant names for confusion, only 3 names remained. By the way, I flipped through 2 pages and crossed out the name of Jinlong. Gretel smiled gratefully at her, took the booklet, and followed the page numbers to the details page. Looking carefully row by row, the 3 silver dragons drawn by Cynthia were all between 350 and 380 years old, almost at the end of their prime. Sperm motility is not particularly good, nor is it particularly bad. It was much inferior to the adult dragons, but compared to the human males with oligosospermia and asthenozoospermia that he had heard about in his previous life, it was a huge improvement. More than 50% of highly active sperm have rapid forward movement. Using a magic circle and a little extraction, you can extract enough sperm to make a first-generation test tube. Greet thought about it in his mind for a long time, and finally thought through the experimental process. With a command, the magic circle opened, the mithril box opened, and 5 groups of cold air rolled gently in the mithril box, sinking and floating. Gretel was stunned for a moment. Hey, where's the test tube? What do you use to hold your eggs? Directly restrain the energy with a force field, and then use the energy to hold the egg. You can do it. Fortunately, we have seen this kind of situation a lot, whether it is a magician of the plasticity system or a magician of the transformation system. Behind Anivia, a transformation magician took a step forward, stretched out his hand and pulled it slightly, and saw a group of cold air rising out of the mithril box with his gesture and drifting to the magic circle used for combining sperm and eggs. With a gentle roar, the magic circle started to rotate with all its strength. The 2 magicians, one on each side, looked at the light screen on the magic equipment and kept reading. Water energy, 131.88. Ice energy, 548.92. Egg temperature, -15 degrees. Gretel twitched the corners of his mouth next to him. At 15 degrees below zero, the eggs are not frozen. They still have strong biological activity and can develop into fertilized eggs. All we can say is that the dragon can do it. Energy index measurement completed. Put the cum in. Microscope calibration. Observation, start. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1711. Under a microscope, you can see sperm swimming one by one towards the egg. Rushing into, bumping into, getting stuck in the outer layer of the egg, which is many times larger than the sperm, and stagnating. Rush again, bump into again, get stuck again, stand still again. If it is a human, this is a process in which sperm continuously releases acrosome enzymes to dissolve the corona radiata and zona pellucida outside the egg. As for the dragon clan, Gretel has not conducted detailed experiments, has not actually dissected the dragon clan's reproductive cells, and has not taken any enzymes or other tests to analyze their components. He could only guess, maybe, probably, almost. All in all, the result of a large number of sperm coming forward one after another is that the protective layer outside the egg is finally washed away and a blood path is opened. Finally, the strongest and luckiest sperm plunges into the egg and begins to combine. Here we go. It's finally about to begin. Gretel sat in front of the microscope, looking at the image on the light screen, constantly adjusting the resolution of the microscope. First it covers the egg and the surrounding sperm, then it covers the entire egg, and then gradually focuses on the nucleus as the fertilization progresses. The sperm cell nucleus is enlarged, the egg cell nucleus is enlarged, the male and female pronuclei move toward each other and get closer, the nuclear membrane disappears, and the chromosomes mix. The two haploid germ cells form a diploid fertilized egg. Whether it can continue to differentiate and develop into an embryo depends on this wave. Greed clenched his fist, unclenched his fist, clenched his fist, unclenched his fist. A ball of cold air gathered in the palm of my hand, and then quietly dispersed. Then I took out a tube of liquid nitrogen, and then took it back. Then I gathered a ball of natural life energy, and then dispersed. Chromosome replication is a very slow process. Such a long double helix was unraveled bit by bit, and pieced together bit by bit using unknown materials. There is golden light shining during the process of joining together. That is extraordinary light, that is the light of energy, that is, invisible to the ordinary world, only the brilliance can be seen in the process of the leap of life essence. Gretel stared at a chromosome spot. The third chromosome, the 15th point, focus, step back, watch it stretch a little and separate a little. The double strand is divided into single strands, and something is put together on top of the single strand. It lit up again, got a little brighter, and was about to turn golden. Hey, it's getting dark. Did the copy fail? Gretel sighed sadly. At this moment, a thought quickly passed through his mind, and he pointed at the container in front of him with a flick of his finger. Limited wishing technique, activate. Let the chromosome point in front of you be copied successfully and bring extraordinary energy. The glare flickered on his fingertips. Under the microscope, a bit of golden light shone on the shaky single chain that was about to lose its grip. Copy, success. Huh. Cynthia subconsciously took a step forward and made a sound of surprise. It's not that I'm surprised by Gretel's handiwork. In fact, when a magician starts researching, it's possible to cast any kind of spell. Don't talk about throwing limited wishing spells one by one. Look at the Lord of Thunder, outside the world barrier, that huge explosion magic that is equivalent to the legendary second-level full-strength shot, is not throwing them one by one. Every time you throw one, record data, record feedback, and record various things. Go back and enter the Mage Tower Spirit, and the poor Tower Spirit will roar with thunderous calculations. What surprised her was that this limited wishing technique could actually interfere with the replication of chromosomes, and then interfere with the division and reproduction of fertilized eggs. Move the focus. Continue to observe. Gretel ordered softly. While giving orders, he reported the relevant points in a flowing manner. The third chromosome, point 47. The fourth chromosome, point 19. The fourth chromosome, point 33. These are all the extraordinary chromosome points he found during his observations of the dragon clan, especially the silver dragon. As the report continued, the microscope moved along to observe the replication of each point. Some copies are successful but not transcendent, and some copies fail. Gretel waited patiently for 5 hours, until most of the chains had been copied, and then issued another order. Scan and count the entire chromosome chain. Look for the parts that failed to copy. Mark the parts that were copied successfully but failed to become extraordinary. Fast, completed within 15 minutes. This order obviously requires extremely high computing power. At the command, Cynthia raised her eyebrows slightly, a layer of skin popped out from her ears, and several thorns spread out in all directions. Turn left twice, turn right twice, hear it? The voice of the tower spirit center was several times louder than before, and the center of the mage tower trembled slightly. Talling, which put out all its computing power, delivered the results within 15 minutes. There was a flash of light in front of Greet, and a dozen light screens opened one after another, and the decomposition diagram of chromosomes appeared on the light screen one by one. In the center of all the light screens, a light green screen is guarded by stars and the moon. Line after line, it's all text. The first chromosome, replication failure at point 52. The second chromosome, point number 3, failed to become extraordinary. The third chromosome. Greet glanced at him, swept out his powerful mental power, and immediately introduced all the complicated information into the core of meditation. Then, close your eyes, concentrate, and cast the spell again. Limited wishing technique, call magical energy. If it is not enough, call the electron flow of the microscope. If it is not enough, call the mage tower to supply energy. Let the following points be copied successfully and all become extraordinary. This time, the magical power surging in the research room was far greater than last time. With a crackling sound, all the light screens in the entire research room dimmed, and the electron flow that kept pouring from the microscope was all restrained by magical power and entered the fertilized egg. Next, there is the invisible force field that holds the fertilized egg. Next, there is the energy channel connected to the microscope and electron microscope to power it. When the powerful energy poured into the microscope again, lifting the precious fertilized egg and bringing it to the focus of the lens, sighs echoed throughout the research room. Wasted. This fertilized egg is dead. The regular double helix broke into pieces, floating here and there. The shining extraordinary point glowed feebly and gradually dimmed. What's worse is that the inside of the fertilized egg is a mess, with many things mixed together in a mess. The input energy is too strong. Cynthia couldn't help but say. If you input too much energy at one time, one cell won't be able to withstand it, maybe you need to do it slowly and do it in many times. Gretel lowered his head and thought. Perhaps it is true that a limited wishing spell is enough to sort out the chromosomes all over a person's body and return those chromosomes that were broken or copied abnormally under strong radiation to their normal state. There is only one fertilized egg in front of it, even if it is a dragon's fertilized egg, it may not be able to withstand it. Thank you. Gretel lowered his head to show respect to his future mother-in-law. Then he raised his voice and quickly ordered. Calculate the energy supply intensity of this limited wishing technique just now. Calculate the energy supply intensity of the first limited wishing technique. Measure the energy intensity of the fertilized dragon egg, estimate how much energy output it can accept, and how much energy pressure it can withstand in a short period of time. Take a fertilized egg of a dragon beast, repeat the above steps, and calculate the maximum endurance capacity of the fertilized egg of a dragon beast. After giving the order, someone rushed to do it. Greed wiped off the sweat, smiled bitterly, and shook his head at the silver dragon Cynthia. Thank you for your attention and guidance. I'm really sorry that we didn't succeed this time and wasted a precious egg. Don't be like this, no one expects you to succeed the first time. Cynthia smiled softly. Don't be stressed. It doesn't matter if the first batch of 10 eggs fails. There will be a second batch and a third batch. As long as you keep researching and making progress, the Dragon Clan's support will continue to come. Ongoing. Eggs are not dragon eggs. When the sleeping eggs are activated and discharged, for the female dragon, the energy loss is very small. As long as you have a big meal and a good sleep, eat a high-level magic beast, eat a few pieces of magic ore, and sleep for 10 days and a half, this loss will be replenished. For this reason, the compensation given by the Legend Conference comes from the starry sky and the magic ore from outside the world barrier. It is a good thing that the mature dragons cannot get at all with their own abilities. Gretel smiled gratefully at her. Cynthia left the mage tower and flew to Dragon City in the sky, while Gretel led the magicians and priests to diligently make measurements and experiments. After completing the first batch of experiments and destroying more than 10 dragon eggs, he finally came to the conclusion. A limited wishing spell should target no more than 10 chromosome points. Whether it is the extraordinary points that have not been copied successfully, or the points that have been successfully copied but have not entered the extraordinary, in short, if more than 10 are made up at one time, the powerful force will directly burst the fertilized egg. Another experiment. Silver Dragon Egg number 2, start. Open the energy gathering array, open the microscope, open the alchemy warehouse, open. In this experiment, Greed continued to personally take action, carefully and patiently, using the limited wish technique to bridge the defects in chromosome replication. The first shot, the second shot, the third shot, 3 consecutive limited wish spells helped the fertilized egg survive the first round of replication and transform from one fertilized egg into 2 cells. However, the second split. Not possible again. Something went wrong again. From the fertilized egg to the morula, it takes at least 7 or 8 rounds of division. Do I have to use the limited wish technique every time? There are hundreds of cells, and I can't check them one by one. There must be another way. There must be. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1712. Research. Research. Keep researching. Measure the magic energy of limited wishing spell, how much is released, how much escapes, and how much is absorbed by cell chromosomes. Use high-energy particles to provide the same amount of energy to the fertilized egg. In the alchemy warehouse, spell models are engraved one by one, so that the spell models resonate with the models in the chromosome points, allowing them to absorb energy more efficiently. Put the dragon eggs and the hatching dragons one by one into the alchemy warehouse, let them be affected by the spell model, and absorb as much external influence as possible. The number 1 dragon egg failed. The cell membrane of the dragon egg ruptured and the cytoplasm flowed out. It is speculated that the reason is that the short-term absorption of energy is too strong and penetrates the cell membrane. Dragon egg number 5 failed. The cell membrane ruptured and the cytoplasm flowed out. It is speculated that the high-energy particle flow was too strong and penetrated the cell membrane. Dragon beast egg number 9 failed. Cytoplasm denaturation. It is speculated that high-energy electron flow caused ion aggregation and protein denaturation. Dragon egg number 14 failed. Fail, fail, keep failing. Every failure means the loss of a life, the disappearance of a resource given by the Dragon Clan, and the failure to obtain results after hours, days, or even weeks of research. And every time, Gretel just picked up the pen calmly, drew a long line on the experimental plan, and crossed out an experimental plan. Got it? Let's move on to the next experiment. If it succeeds, everyone is naturally happy. Failure is not that embarrassing. How many times have you failed so far? It is nothing more than summarizing the experimental process, summarizing the reasons why the experiment may fail, and adjusting the next experimental plan accordingly. Even so, it takes a lot of willpower to say calmly we have eliminated the possibility of a mistake. Greed hummed silently. What if the direction he pointed was completely wrong? What if everyone running up and down the mage tower was following him? In this kind of research, there is no such thing as circling the earth once and always reaching the destination. Alas, senior sister, when will there be any progress? Regarding high-energy electrons, about the extraordinary spots on chromosomes, and about the magic configurations inside the extraordinary spots. Eat what I have, use what I have, use my mage tower, my team, and my accelerator for research, and give me some feedback anytime. There is also a new version of the microelectron microscope, which can illuminate the magical configuration of extraordinary points on chromosomes. When can it be made? Don't always rely on senior sister to use mental scanning. And the teacher, about electrons, about the transition of extraordinary energy, about the double-slit interference experiment and the observer effect. The teacher explicitly prohibited the senior sister from doing research, so he started this subject himself. He also built a larger accelerator for this purpose. It was just built last month. When will he be able to do some research? At the very least, the high-energy electron flow, or any high-energy particle flow, can be accurately positioned at a certain point on the chromosome, and accurate support can be provided. Greet was depressed and annoyed. Without powerful observation methods and powerful research methods, it would be too difficult to do research. The Lord of Thunder was also depressed. For one thing, I was depressed that Gretel's mental power was growing too slowly, and could not keep up with his requirements. This level of mental power growth would be dangerous when he advanced to the legendary level. Second, the wife is not pregnant, still not pregnant. Although we know that it is difficult to get pregnant in Legends, and it is also difficult for elves to get pregnant, the odds of these two difficulties being combined are too low. But it would be great if she could get pregnant. During this period of time, Princess Norrell has been busy in the wounded camp of Sky Dragon City, treating the injured dragons that retreated. Those alien energies almost hurt her several times. If she gets pregnant, she can raise her baby safely and won't have to work so hard. Moreover, Princess Norrell has been staying in the wounded camp. Even when he goes out to fight, he must be careful not to rush too far ahead. If he was hurt, Norrell would cry. Not the kind of wailing, but with his head lowered, and transparent tears welled up in his eyes one by one, across his face, and fell down along the beautiful jawline. Tears fell on the flower, the petals bowed their heads and fell on the grass, the wild grass spread its leaves and fell on the soil, and a tender new shoot sprouted out of the soil. The wind rustles, the wooden leaves sway, and the whole nature responds to the sadness of the daughter of nature. He really didn't want to see her cry. But in order to get his wife pregnant as soon as possible, to get checked out, to seek medical help, etc., the Lord of Thunder really couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Forget it, Gretel hasn't reached the level of a legendary dragon yet, so he should work harder first. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, when this project has achieved results and has been rolled out, and anyone he can find can help with assisted reproduction, he will go around in circles to find someone. He is a legend, and Norrell is also a legend. They have not lacked the experience of the past 10 or 20 years. Christine. Are you ready? Let's go. Coming. The Lord of Thunder raised his voice in response and took a step forward. Today they have a very important task. The three legendary third-level dragons, together with him, have to go far beyond the world barrier and establish a new stronghold in the direction of the small world. 4 small dots form a triangle, with the golden dragon as the edge, the black dragon and the red dragon as the wings, and the Lord of Thunder flies in the middle, soaring into the sky, far into the sky. Crossing the barrier of the world, rushing up, the power of the world's gentle embrace fades away behind them, and can no longer stop their steps. The Lord of Thunder turned back and took a look from a distance. A distant, blue arc spread out at the end of his sight. The scenery further down is obscured by the barrier of the world and cannot be penetrated by the current gaze. However, even standing here, you can see a huge vertical line, slowly advancing from east to west. To the east of this line, there is joy, and all things are growing. To the west of this line, there is darkness and silence, falling into sleep and hiding. Even if he advances step by step with the power of thunder and lightning, standing here, he can still feel the vast and powerful vitality. That's his world. There were people he loved there. The Lord of Thunder only glanced at this, activated his spell, and followed the 3 dragons closely. The world under your feet is getting farther and farther away, and above your head, the dark, dangerous, roaring, and pressing small world is getting closer and closer. Flying to about 1/10 of the distance between the main world and the small world above, 3 high-pitched dragon roars sounded almost at the same moment. The red dragon and the black dragon are separated on both sides, and the golden dragon is suspended in the air, with its wings stretched out to the limit. Cast a spell. Cast a spell. There was a powerful force trembling and undulating in the air. In a moment, a crack quietly opened outwards based on the center points of the golden dragon's wingtips. The cracks got bigger and bigger, and the cracks got bigger and bigger. Finally, a meteorite that was even bigger than the golden dragon slowly squeezed out of the cracks. 1/4, 1/3, 2/5. Call. The wind above my head suddenly became violent. A gap opened in the small world above the head, and the dark wind blew out from inside, pressing down. In the black wind, long and short black stripes, whip-like black lightning, and invisible space cracks surged together. Before it arrived, there were already ominous ripples around the meteorite, which was half outside and half inside the space equipment. I'll deal with it. The Lord of Thunder gave a signal and jumped up. The 3 dragon clans, the Golden Dragon, are carrying this meteorite, slowly releasing it, and stabilizing it in space. The Black Dragon and the Red Dragon should serve as assistants to the Golden Dragon, and they should spread out layers of magic circles on the meteor to make it a safe foothold and cornerstone for the young dragons after they leave the world barrier. As for him, a human being, although he is also a legendary 3rd level, he is not that proficient in dragon magic. The best arrangement is for him to rush upward to resist those attacks. 1 against 3. Even, 1 versus 6. 4 3rd-level legends are out in battle, and it's impossible for the opponent to send just one strong one. If he was responsible for arranging the troops, as long as he had enough troops at hand, he would at least throw out double the number of strong men. The Lord of Thunder first flicked his hand, and a bolt of lightning shot out, instantly turning into an endless sea of lightning. The lightning flashed for a moment, and all the brilliance faded quietly, but the power did not disappear. The power of thunder and lightning is violent and powerful. It is good at attacking but not at defending. It is good at searching and breaking various invisibility techniques, but it is not good at forming formations to meet the enemy and block various impacts. However, the lightning coils and rotates and turns into a magnetic field. Although it is invisible and has no quality, it is the best at guarding it. And the power of the magnetic field can also be connected with various force fields, layer upon layer, to keep out all foreign enemies. A layer of magnetic field, a layer of force field, another layer of magnetic field, and another layer of force field. The laser light spread out as fast as it could, then turned into a magnetic field, and then spread out densely over a large area, covering the 3 legendary dragons and the entire 10 miles around them. The Lord of Thunder continued to fly upward at high speed, until he flew to about 1/5 of the distance between the main world and the small world, and suddenly raised his hand. Boom! 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 4 huge light groups rose up at the same time. The 4 explosion points formed a rigorous triangular pyramid, exploding on all sides, and endless light and heat squeezed toward the middle. Wherever the strong light swept across, black lines, black lightning, and even space cracks were swept away. Many faint black spots screamed in the void, but were wiped away before they could be heard. The Lord of Thunder seemed to hear an angry curse. It's this move again. What happened to this move again? It's this trick again, and there's nothing you can do about it. Besides, when I first developed this technique, I could only fire 1 explosion at a time. After trying it for so many days, I can use the method of meteor explosion to detonate 4 explosions at the same time, which is much more powerful than a single shot. If you have the skills, you can crack this trick. The Lord of Thunder stood in the void and sneered slightly. Just as he stretched out his hand to press the space bag, intending to strike again, a leisurely ripple suddenly flew across the sky and reached behind him in an instant. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1713. The Lord of Thunder stopped and looked back. The main world, a huge planet, a distant blue arc, the shadows that separate light and dark, and pass over the earth. 3 legendary dragons, a huge meteorite, and stacks of magic arrays on the meteorite. Based on the meteorite and the magic array, the foothold is dozens of times the size of the meteorite. Above the meteorite, the Sea of Thunder spread out, and the Sea of Magnetic Field after the thunder became silent. All gone. All disappeared from his sight. Even in his mental perception, it has become extremely distant, extremely far away, so far away, as if it is already the existence of another world. This ripple spread across the sky leisurely and unfolded behind him, opening up an endless spatial distance. Are you going to kill me first? The Lord of Thunder sneered slightly. If he were the master of that small world, he would choose his opponent like this. If a dragon is besieged and killed, 5 or 10 dragons will risk their lives to attack the outer trap and rescue their kin. If a human is besieged and killed, the possibility of the dragon being rescued at all costs is reduced by at least 50%. Surrounding and killing a dragon, the dragon's body is huge, full of vitality, and can last for an extremely long time. Surrounding and killing a human, after opening the peripheral defense, it may only take an instant to destroy the human body. However, you have found the wrong person. You have been fighting with the Dragon Clan for so long, and you already know a lot about the Dragon Clan's magic and abilities. However, for humans, for the latest achievements of the Magic Council over the years, especially for my achievements over the years. What do you know? What do you know? Apart from that explosion, what else do you know? Now that you're here, don't leave. Beside the Lord of Thunder, the lightning flashed slightly and then disappeared. The lightning net, magnetic shield, and space shield are laid down layer by layer. Then, he did not try to return, but turned into a stream of light and rushed straight to the direction of the zenith, towards the direction of that small world. Boom! Boom! Boom boom boom! A series of explosions passed by as he flew. A huge explosion, a huge amount of light and heat, spread out behind him. In an instant, 5 suns exploded simultaneously in the void. It shines brightly for 5 days, drawing an arc in the sky. Leave the ripples that separate the Lord of Thunder and the 3 legendary dragons, as well as the space power flowing in the ripples, far behind. Among the ripples, a string of faint black shadows emerged. As soon as the head appeared, black smoke billowed out from the top, drifting and scattering. Those black shadows twisted and hurriedly sank into the ripples. After a while, they emerged cautiously. The black shadow twisted, blurred, twisted again, and blurred again. The void swayed, and the black shadows finally huddled together and condensed into a huge black monster. If you can understand their language, you can hear countless voices roaring, whining, and complaining inside the black monster. So hot, so hot, so hot. It's so hot. Roast me to death. That little one is so disgusting. He actually didn't run back. If he runs back, we can swallow him up. We have been squatting here for a long time. A long time, a long time, a long time. Eat him. Eat him. Eat him. Catch up. No. Our strength is here. Our preparations are all here. The sound was huge and messy. The mutual excitement can even make people feel contradictory and contradictory to each other. However, there is a wonderful harmony and unity between the contradictions, forming a unique order between filth and evil. Obviously, the warriors, strong men, or troops sent by that small world set up an ambush in the void behind the Lord of Thunder, wanting to surround him and devour him. However, they did not expect that the Lord of Thunder would decisively charge back. Not only did they recoil, they also left endless light and heat behind them. Now, they themselves were cut off from their home planet. Are you going to rush forward? No. It's too bright up there. It's too hot. My body is twisting. My power is melting away. We'll wait here. Wait. Wait until he comes back. If you don't believe him, he won't come back. Leave the matters above to our companions above. There's an attack below. There's an attack below. Ripples appeared, the galaxy crossed the sky, and the three legendary dragons reacted immediately. The golden dragon speeded up and deployed a magic circle on the meteorite, turning the meteorite, which was only the size of a giant dragon, into a ground that could accommodate dozens of giant dragons. In addition to being down to earth, it was also roughly separated to provide different elemental environments. The black dragon let out a long groan, its wingtips streaked through the void, and bursts of signals instantly shot down to the ground. In the flower hall in the middle of Sky Dragon City, the petals swayed and opened, and the sharp message echoed repeatedly in the meeting hall. The enemy is attacking in a big way. Attack in a big way. The Lord of Thunder is separated. Signal blocker. We need support. Need a lot of support. The red dragon spread its wings and floated in the air. Under the wingtip, a meteorite slowly squeezed out of the space, and was then attracted by the force field to join the previous meteorite. The two meteorites orbited each other, attracted each other, and rotated in the void. The red dragon, which had completed its transportation mission, held its head high and shot back into the sky like a burning meteorite. Every time it rushes higher, the flames on its body burn more intensely. Every time it rushes closer to the ripple, the sharp wind shield on its body, as well as the meteorite fragments and smoke outside the wind shield, become thicker. In the void, thunder shines and the light is distorted. The sea of thunder and magnetic field that the Lord of Thunder had previously deployed was actually lifted up by him alone. This legendary third-level red dragon, wearing a curtain of thunder and light, is protected by entangled magnetic lines. He rushes faster and faster, faster and faster. Boom! He hit the ripple of void heavily. The violent wind, blazing fire, lightning, and magnetic field poured out at this moment, rushing towards the enemy. The invisible space crack was instantly transformed into a visible form by the powerful force poured into it. The next moment, the red dragon opened its mouth and breathed pure blue flames, tearing open the space. Enemy attack. Enemy attack. Defense. Adjust the direction. Adjust the defense direction. I can't stop it. In the void, the black mist twisted, rotated, and whined. The furious red dragon spewed out more than just breath. Pure cyan flames tore open the space, and immediately formed countless mysterious patterns one by one, one by one. The patterns are condensed into runes, and the runes are combined into a magic circle. The next moment, a torrent of flames fell from the sky and penetrated the space mightily. This legendary third-level dragon actually used his own breath as the foundation to launch legendary third-level attack magic. The next moment, the black dragon, which completed the communication and released the third meteorite, also rushed forward. He spread his wings, turned around, and sucked hard. The black mist rolled up with his movements and was swallowed by him in big mouthfuls. Belch. He burped contentedly. Then, the uneaten black mist quickly condensed and was whipped back like a whip. In the black mist, noisy voices shouted in panic. I can't control myself. I can't help it. Help me. Let me leave. Ah! The whip of black mist whipped into the void. Once, twice, and 3 times, it was stirred up, and something with a flat and shiny body rolled up and appeared to be covered with carapace. In terms of body length, that thing is about the same length as a dragon from the tip of its nose to the tip of its tail, but it's completely flat, like 2 shields joined together. Thousands of black mist tentacles stretched out from the gaps around them, and they were flapping. The red dragon stared at the insect-shaped creature with disgust, took a deep breath, spread its wings, and swelled its chest to the limit. It was about to spit out another breath. The black dragon crossed the fog whip and blocked his companion. Wait. Let me control it for a while. He pointed at the tip of his wing, and the insect-shaped creature let out an unpleasant scream. In the world outside the world barrier, sound waves cannot be transmitted normally, and the scream seems to ring directly in the hearts of all living creatures, making the red dragon's scales stand up one by one. Within the void gap, there were many smaller groups of black mist, which exploded one after another and could no longer condense. Immediately, the insect-shaped creature rushed to the edge of the void crack, opened its mouth, and gnawed on it. Take a bite and the cracks disappear a little. Take another bite and the cracks disappear a little more. Watching the giant insect straighten its body and rush to the other side of the void rift, there seemed to be an extra bridge above the entire rift. The red dragon looked up at the top of the fissure, its wings bunched up, wind and fire intertwined around it, and it was about to rush forward bravely. Suddenly there was another scream, and the giant insect exploded completely. The carapace, tentacles, and internal organs were exploded everywhere, and the space was shaken unstable and broken into pieces. What are you doing? The red dragon couldn't help but complain about his companions. The bridge is about to be built. We have to get there quickly. Christine is still waiting for our support. Wait. Look. The red dragon raised his head blankly. In the darkness, a sudden light shines. 9 days in the sky. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1714. 9 days passed. On the side of every scorching sun, there are several figures flying out. Swift, flamboyant, and shining, countless rays of electric light wrap around the body, opening violently outwards, sweeping away all dark and gloomy existences. You chase me. If you have the ability, you should pursue me. All the figures look exactly the same, and all of them are wrapped with powerful power. Do you dare to be sure, which one is my true body, and which one can kill me if I block it? The Lord of Thunder has traveled eastward from Nevis to the Orc Kingdom, and then back across the continent from the Orc Kingdom, to the west across the ocean, across the New World, to Evermeet Island, and then set foot on Evermeet Island. Dragon Island. He has seen all kinds of dangers and all kinds of visions. He has defeated the strong with the weak countless times, and walked away from the danger of extinction countless times. His combat experience is extremely rich. Just like now, despite his powerful attack power, he immediately flew out countless phantoms. On the battlefield, the most important thing for a magician is to protect himself, and if he wants to protect himself, the eternal rule is not to let the enemy find him. Lord of Thunder. Black Dragon Surprise. Shining together for 9 days, soon he is like this, which shows that the Lord of Thunder is quite safe now. With such a powerful attack, no enemy would dare to approach him for a while. Lord of Thunder. The red dragon took a breath of air, and its pure cyan breath turned dark red for a moment. Everyone is a legend, and they are all level 3 legends. Why can this human being be able to unleash such a powerful attack from his small body? If he was caught off guard, would he be able to catch it? Can you get out of the way without any damage? Or, at least, could a life be saved? He is a red dragon. Among all dragon species, it is the red dragon that is best at using fire and has the strongest tolerance to high temperatures. In terms of defense against fire and heat, or the ability to be immune to fire damage, only the golden dragon can compare with him, and not even the copper dragon can match it at all. However, even he did not dare to say that he could survive the 9 fireballs that exploded at the same time. Even if the defense is maxed out? With full defense, you can only hold up to 3, 4, or 5 at most, and you can't be at the center of the explosion and be blasted by several fireballs at the same time. Lord of Thunder. The golden dragon, half lying on the meteorite, was so busy with various spells and symbols shaking off his scales like rain, he raised his head and frowned tightly. Launching such a powerful attack instantly, did the Lord of Thunder encounter any danger? After this blow, how long does it take for him to calm down the trembling mental power? How long does it take for him to fly out of the area where the elements are chaotic, and how long does it take for him to return to a safe place? Reinforcements must arrive quickly. He must finish the work here quickly and make a beacon to guide his fellow tribesmen to follow him quickly. Forget it about the dragon clan, they are ready to sacrifice one, several, even half of their compatriots. This is their innate mission, and it is the responsibility they should bear as they are loved by the world. However, the Lord of Thunder must not die. A legendary 3rd-level magician is very, very precious in the Magic Council and must not die here. Not to mention, Little Greed is still working hard down there doing experiments, research, and contributing to promoting the reproduction of the dragon family. If his teacher died, God knows what would happen to him. The golden dragon let out a long low groan, and his whole body suddenly bloomed with brilliance. For a moment, the entire dragon turned into a golden sun, bursting with light from the inside out, making it impossible to look at it. Every piece of dragon scale is so bright that it is eye-catching, and every beam of light projected on the ground outlines the shape of a magic rune. Brand, brand, continue to brand, the magic incantations on the 3 meteorites, like wildfire starting a prairie fire, rapidly extended to every corner of the sphere. Faster. Faster. It's just a little bit closer, and it'll be done soon. As long as it is completed, a stable path can be set up in the starry sky, so that compatriots can be teleported directly here and back, so that the injured compatriots can have a temporary place to stay and breathe safely. As long as it's completed, I can immediately send reinforcements. Christine. Withstand. Unfortunately, the opposite happened. The branding magic circle was still a little short of the last bit, and the sky above our heads suddenly turned dark. The brilliant, splendid, and dazzling light and heat that had just swept across the sky for 9 days seemed to have never existed. The pouring wind and fire were swallowed up in one gulp, and the bursting thunder and lightning and magnetic field were smoothed away by an invisible hand. And that hand, holding a huge, black velvet-like curtain, shook and waved it casually. The pure black sky fell instantly, cutting off light and shadow, cutting off the fluctuations of power. The Lord of Thunder disappeared in the eyes of the three legendary dragons for a moment. Not only did the Lord of Thunder disappear, the 9 scorching suns he waved and all the figures radiating beside the scorching sun also disappeared. Even the sun hanging high above your head, the distant starry sky, those stars that seem to be eternal and unchanging, but also seem to be wavering. All disappeared, leaving only pure black. Defense. Defense. The extremely penetrating low chant resounded under the black sky. They had encountered this black sky at least 10 times during their fights. It was a very difficult thing to deal with, cutting off all power, tearing apart space, and widening the distance. If you don't care about it, it won't last long. The current large-scale canopy can only last for 2 or 3 days. You must break through it. It will take about 3 legendary second-level people and a legendary third-level person to attack with all their strength. Long time. What's worse is that this black sky is also a creation of magic. Not only can it separate the battlefield and block exploration, it can also roll back and swallow up the dragon that cannot dodge. For a giant dragon swallowed by this black sky, as long as there is a gap in its body's defense, the best result would be to have its skin and flesh ripped apart. Previously, 2 members of the same race were caught off guard and swallowed by it, never coming out again. Defense. Fall back. Detour. This kind of black canopy does not spread over a particularly large area. The third-level legendary dragon is flying at full speed. It only takes half an hour to get out of its isolation range and rush towards the comrades behind it. Lord of Thunder, hold on. The Lord of Thunder stood in the void, looking up at the small world above his head with his hands behind his hands, a slight sneer appearing at the corner of his mouth. There is a black sky under your feet, and there is no blazing sun above your head, but endless turbulence. The direction of the wind is changing, the force field is fluctuating, the space is fragmented and then healed, and then fragmented. An extremely vast area in all directions is blocked by strange forces. Fire, water, ice, lightning, space, force fields, all kinds of forces are mixed together. Even the sense of direction was completely confused, as if the entire space was completely shattered and then stuck together extremely roughly, forming a kaleidoscope. It can be said that if he wanted to escape now, no matter which direction he ran, he would end up running into the opponent's cage. But so what? It's not like I can't find my way home. The main world I just left had such a distinct presence and such a powerful attraction at my feet, pointing me in the direction of home. And just now, 9 days passed, and a large safe area was cleared for me. This hot, violent energy is exactly the opposite of the energy nature of the small black world above your head. I don't believe you dare to come close. I don't believe you dare to rush in despite the violent explosion. Such a large area is enough for me to move around. You won't be able to find my true identity in a short period of time, and even if you find it, you won't be able to reach me. Just as he smiled, a gap opened behind him silently. A black claw clawed at his back, the tip of the claw flickering with light. As soon as it appeared, it was already less than 1 meter away from the Lord of Thunder. The wall of lightning and magnetic field seemed to have never existed. The black claws advance again, and again. Seeing that it had touched the back of his mind, the figure of the Lord of Thunder shattered in the air with a wave like a dreamy bubble. Next to the other sun, another figure solidified instantly, raised his hand and pointed. Got you. The shining thunder and lightning weaved into a net of light, surrounding the black claw and the existence behind the claw like a net of fish. As soon as the power grid was closed, there was a crackling sound, and the skinny black figure twisted, danced, fell apart, and was burned into air waves. Cunning. The Lord of Thunder snorted. The being that had just attacked him was an extremely powerful being. However, the moment it escaped and turned back, The essence of that being had disappeared, leaving only an empty shell in his lightning net. But, do you think I can't catch you like this? The thunder and lightning net moved gently, stretching out far away along the remaining fragments of the skinny figure. Extend, extend, scattering into a brilliant spark of sparks, returning in vain. That existence seemed to have completely disappeared, and it seemed as if it had never appeared before. The next moment, another black claw, silently, stretched out from the back of the Lord of Thunder and struck straight at the back of the heart. Move to protect yourself, the lightning net turns around again, and once again it is empty. Repeatedly, when the black claws pounced again, the Lord of Thunder suddenly turned around and gave him a light foot. Boom! In an instant, thunder, lightning, and magnetic fields all froze in the air. The crackling electric sparks and the branch-like lightning extensions all stagnated into a rigid shape, like a silhouette cut in time and space. Only the Lord of Thunder took a leisurely step forward, raised his hand, grabbed it, and carried it. Space is torn apart. The black sky opened. A being that was much taller than the skinny black figure was lifted out by him with great ease. That being's upper body had tangled muscles, while its lower body was a floating shadow. The whole person was constantly blurring, as if it was about to dissolve into space and disappear. But the moment he was lifted out by the Lord of Thunder, his entire body turned from empty to solid, pouring back into his body like a wisp of smoke. Impossible! An exasperated cry. The creatures from another world did not speak the same language. However, the fluctuations of the soul penetrated into the mental power of the Lord of Thunder without any hindrance, but he only laughed at them. Why isn't it possible? I am a god. God is invisible, unknowable, and unobservable. Why can you see me? Why can you catch me? Because I know what you are. The Lord of Thunder's smile continued unabated, and the lightning in his hand vibrated, weaving into a cage, tightly binding that existence inside. The so-called God is nothing more than an existence that follows another kind of law. And I have noticed this pattern. When communicating with the sun god Virakaka, when pulling Philby out of the void, when doing electronic-related experiments. As long as you master this law, even if it is a god, I will kill it for you. Thanks to @Black and White Wind Trace for the reward of 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1715. After being grabbed out of the void, the dark, skinny creature with black smoke surrounding it quickly twisted into a ball. Black smoke gurgled, and kept coming out of its body, shrouding its surroundings. Part of it formed a hard shell, part of it showed its teeth and claws, and part of it gradually faded away, as if it had spread too far and could no longer be seen clearly. However, no matter how weak it is, it still exists. No matter how hard he bared his teeth and claws, he could not escape into the void and disappear. The Lord of Thunder looked at the dark existence quietly. The lightning around him shone and formed a pool of thunder, restraining the newly captured demigod. After 9 days in the sky, he also needed to make some adjustments before he could launch a decisive attack again. However, this time will not last long, not long. You can't escape. What's the difference between a demigod and a legend? In the view of the Lord of Thunder, the essential difference is nothing more than that. Demigods can escape into the void and are unfathomable, uncaptured, and untouchable. To put it simply, he can hit you, but you can't hit him. Even absorbing the power of faith, storing the power of faith, and using the power of faith cannot be regarded as essential differences. Not to mention that priests can use divine magic. There are so many indigenous gods in the New World, ranging from level 5, 6, 7, 8 to 17 or 18. Which one can't use the power of faith? Of course, whether one actively defines faith or is defined and bound by faith is another matter. However, it is obvious that tossing the power of faith is not the boundary between demigods and legends. The Lord of Thunder had killed a demigod before, but with the cooperation of the other two legends, the killing was very difficult. A lot of energy and time were spent waiting for opportunities and creating opportunities. The legends of the glorious Holy See had seriously injured the sun god Virakaka before, so they were not prepared at all in advance. However, after finding a way for the demigod to escape into the void, it is not that difficult to fight him again. At the very least, when a demigod escapes into the void, he has no way to interfere with the real world, or in other words, he can only indirectly interfere with the real world through devout believers, but cannot directly descend into his true form. And when he comes into his true form, he can hit you, and you can hit him. This is the secret that legends used to fight demigods before. However, at that time, they could only seize the time to hit a few times when the demigod took action. When the demigod escaped into the void, they could only work hard to defend. If Gretel knew their playing style, he would probably comment. Just like the last level of Plants vs. Zombies, the robot driven by Dr. Zombie can only be hit and damaged by the player when it bends down to spit fireballs and ice balls. But when the robot straightens up and releases zombies one by one, the player can only face those zombies in agony. No matter how many hits, no real damage will be done to the robot. What the Lord of Thunder is doing now is to break the mystery of the demigod retreating into the void. From now on, as long as these demigods take action in front of him, or even appear, they can't even think about running away. Well, it's equivalent to placing an ice mushroom when the zombie robot bends down, freezing the whole screen, and you can hit it at will. Naturally, the Lord of Thunder does not have ice mushrooms in his hands. Even if there are ice mushrooms, this kind of thing will not have much effect on demigods. However, the Sea of Lightning locked the demigod tightly. The electric field and magnetic field rotated alternately, and every trace of energy fluctuation was clearly visible. The Lord of Thunder took a step forward, and the Sea of Thunder gently parted under his feet, lifting him forward step by step, getting closer step by step. Brush. Dozens, hundreds, of spiral space blades surged toward the Lord of Thunder. Some are slashing forward, some are stabbing at an angle, some are hanging upside down, or some are bending backwards, from all directions, with menacing momentum. Seeing that any sharp blade attached to the body can cut a person in half directly. The Lord of Thunder remained motionless, a layer of hazy light and shadow slowly emerging around him. Those space blades, falling into the light and shadow, seemed to have fallen into a bottomless abyss, and could no longer get even closer to the Lord of Thunder. Instead, the light and shadow cut by the space blade suddenly opened countless holes, and turbulent torrents spurted out from them. That is the flow of thunder. That's the river of lightning. Straight lightning, tree-like branch lightning, leisurely floating ball lightning, a necklace of lightning that also looks like hanging down, narrow streams, wide waterfalls. On the river of lightning that surged out, there were countless creatures leaping and undulating. Bird-shaped, fish-shaped, insect-shaped, snake-shaped. The white deer with huge forked horns on its head, the unicorn with its spiral horn sucking out lightning, the white wolf with its mane shaking off lightning, the tiger roaring up to the sky. A giant bull with a roar like thunder, falling hooves and emitting lightning, a divine bird with wings spread out, tail feathers hanging from the sky, and clouds of plasma falling down. Of course, there are also humanoid lightning elves. They surged out and pounced on the foreign demigod who was fixed in the void. Some collide, some bite, some peck with their beaks and claws, and some move their hands and feet, and naturally a river of thunder and lightning surges. Of course, there were also little white cats rolling around and licking their fur. No matter how much my companions attacked me, I remained unmoved. The space blade driven by the foreign demigod just now actually cut through the separation between the main world and the electric element plane, allowing a large number of electric elements to surge out. The corners of the Lord of Thunder's mouth curled up slightly. Of course he can mobilize the power of the elements himself and join the battle. However, if we can use external forces, why not borrow them? The electrical elemental plane is one of the planes closest to him, and the demi-plane he constructed also contains many electrical elements. Even the white cat he gave to Gretel was caught from the electrical elemental plane, and then he gave it wisdom and enlightenment. Fight with me. These invaders are our common enemies. The passage to the elemental plane was opened for a moment, and then slowly disappeared. The pouring out electrical elements, led by a few wise leaders, returned to the elemental plane along the natural suction. At this time, the black smoke on the black demigod who had been hit in the head and face had almost disappeared. The hard shell, the tentacles with claws, and the smoke that was so thin that it almost disappeared, all disappeared. Yet it's still advancing. With a scream, the black demigod exploded, its huge body exploding into flying fragments. Each fragment suddenly turned into a smaller clawed monster, screaming and roaring, and rushed towards the Lord of Thunder. Which one is the real one? Which one is the incarnation? Which one is a ghost? One person, one pair of eyes, can't be stared at all. However, the Lord of Thunder does not need to use his eyes to see. His mental power fills the air and fluctuates gently, and he has all the situations under control. He stood in the air, motionless. Suddenly, the ring of fire around him opened up, pushing out, covering the world. 80 or 90% of those little black monsters were reduced to ashes in the extrapolated ring of fire. The Lord of Thunder suddenly raised his head, his cold eyes staring at a void that seemed to contain nothing. Got you.